Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope your day is starting off just great. The days are getting shorter here in our country. We're approaching the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. And one of the positives of that is that we Canadians are able to see the sunrise and the sunset every day without getting up too early or staying up too late. Like this one here, snapped by Jules and shared on the I Choose Canada group. And this particular picture is taken in mid-Vancouver Island. I'm not sure if it's facing west or east. I believe it's facing east because I think I can see some land out in the horizon there, but I'm not sure. Just a beautiful picture, beautiful colors in our beautiful country. Now in this video, I want to update you on some absolutely amazing, unexpected news from Canada economically. I say unexpected, but I don't think it's unexpected. But I want to be fair, I'm not just going to cherry pick good news. There's a little bit of bad news as well. And then I want to contrast with some news in the United States. We've been lacking news in the United States because they haven't been releasing any news because their government was shut down. But the news in the United States is just terrible. It seems like Canada is moving forward steadily, surprisingly well, in the face of a headwind, while the United States is just moving quickly, surprisingly bad, with the wind at their backs, led by Donald Trump's bombastic buffoonery spewing out of his mouth, headed for a cliff. And news like this represents the headwind that we're facing. Reported here on Global News, Ford says he knew layoffs were coming before loaning Algoma Steel $100 million. The federal government and the Ontario government lent money to a company, Algoma Steel, that operates in Sault Ste. Marie, Northern Ontario. The reason being this company has been hit hard by some of the targeted tariffs that the United States has put on our imports, specifically steel. This company has disproportionately seen the effect of those tariffs in a very bad way. And of course, some of the headlines now and some of the questions are, should we have extended that loan to this company? And if we did, why didn't we secure the jobs? What the CEO told us, there would be a dramatic change if we didn't put funding in. It'd be a lot more than 1,000 people, Ford told Global News at Queen's Park. Ford referred to Algoma Steel as the Titanic, which he said was sinking up there, and the government had limited choices to pursue. We either save, 2/3, or we don't save anything, Ford said. And I believe in saving the company up there, allocating funds to keep them going. Ford added that without taxpayer funds, I don't think the plant would be standing right now. Now that's bad news for one specific company in one specific sector of our economy. Expected because that sector was targeted heavily by the tariffs. And there's going to be a big restructuring in the future to keep a company like that or that industry profitable and sustainable in Canada. We're going to need to diversify our markets and potentially use more of the products that that company makes domestically because demand for their products is decreased in the United States because of the tariffs. That's not a surprise. But this headline is something that economists felt surprised about, which I don't feel surprised about. The headline, Canada's unemployment rate falls to 6.5%, with 53,000 jobs added in November. So on a macro level, the whole Canadian economy, a huge win for the unemployment rate. Economists expecting unemployment to rise to 7%, but the actual number came in at 6.5% with 53,000 new jobs created. This is fantastic news. Don't want to diminish the layoffs in the steel sector, those 1,000 Canadians that lost their jobs. But when you look at the macro picture of the whole Canadian economy, we are heading in the right direction, as I said, but against headwinds. Job growth last month was concentrated among youth aged 15 to 24. That's excellent news. 50,000 jobs added. By industry, the most jobs were added in healthcare and social assistance, up 64,000 or 1.6%. Accommodation and food services up 14,000 or 1.2%. And natural resources up 11,000 or 3.4%. Average hourly wages were up 3.6% from November 2024, rising $1.27 to $37 an hour. Now that's really good news on a macro level. If average hourly wages are increasing 3.6% and inflation is at around 2%, that means that wages are going up faster than inflation is going up. So slowly, over time, we should be making some progress in the affordability problem that we have in Canada. But that's going to take time. And I know that on an individual basis, if you're struggling or if you go to the grocery store and something's expensive, you're not going to just be happy that these numbers came out. That doesn't make everything great. It's just showing that we're headed in the right direction. So over time, things should be improving. But creating 53,000 new jobs and the unemployment rate dropping to 6.5% from an expected 7%, that is a fantastic beat. Any way you look at those numbers, those are fantastic headline numbers. Numbers that should shock even the biggest spewers of doom and gloom in our country. So in Canada, against headwinds, we're creating jobs, our unemployment rate is dropping, and our inflation rate is low. In contrast, in the United States, the latest data, Fed's preferred inflation gauge stayed elevated in September as spending weakened. As reported here on Yahoo Finance, prices rose 0.3% in September from August. On an annualized basis, if you multiply that by 12, that's a 3.6% inflation rate annualized. The Commerce Department said on Friday in a report that was delayed 5 weeks by the government shutdown. It was the same increase as the previous month. Reported here in The Guardian yesterday, U.S. private payrolls unexpectedly declined in November, the ADP says. This is the only recent news from November because the ADP is not funded by the government. Private employment decreased by 32,000 jobs last month. So while Canada overall is enjoying a low inflation rate and we are creating jobs in our economy, the United States is seen as a whole a high inflation rate and they're losing jobs in their economy. And that's not all in the United States. They're taking additional measures to make sure they stay on the path of becoming great again. The latest, the U.S. Supreme Court, allows Texas to use new Trump-backed electoral map to ensure that the newly created districts will more likely result in a Republican winning that district. Good plan, good plan. For all of you who thought, well, when the midterms come, the Republicans will get wiped out and we'll be back to sanity in the United States. Well, don't count your chickens before they hatch because the administration is working really hard on making that impossible. And in another effort to make sure that the U.S. becomes great again, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control in the United States, advisors vote to end universal hepatitis B vaccination for newborns. Because everyone knows if you want America to become great again, you have to stop vaccinating your babies so that they're more likely to get hepatitis B. That's a really good plan. The United States is really heading in that direction to become really great. Have high tariffs like they did in the Great Depression, to have high unemployment and high prices, and stop vaccinating each other and change the electoral map so that the people in charge can stay in charge. They're well on their way to becoming really great again. And in fact, some of the policies that the U.S. administration have are on track to make the U.S. so great that even the companies that operate in their own country are so shocked with these policies that they're taking matters into their own hands. Costco is suing Trump administration for U.S. tariff refund. They're worried that the United States will be so great with the tariffs that Trump has imposed that they're suing the government. But remember, Donald Trump has said that the U.S. will not pay the tariffs, U.S. companies and consumers won't pay the tariffs, and prices will not go up. Those nasty countries like Mexico and Canada and China, they will pay the tariffs. And if you believe that's true, then you might want to ask yourself, well, then why is Costco suing the U.S. administration to get their money back? If they didn't pay the tariffs, why are they suing? Well, the American dream is very complicated. That's what it is. That's what spouts out of Donald Trump's mouth. I finally learned what the definition is of the American dream. They're living in a dreamland of a bizarro backwards world that most of us mere mortals don't quite understand. But I'm starting to understand it. The American dream means you're living in a dreamland. And world leaders are starting to recognize what a waste of time it is to even engage this orange buffoon down there in that country that makes no sense. The United States' two biggest trading partners, Canada and Mexico, the leaders of both those countries, will be meeting Trump yesterday, I guess, as I released this video. Carney to meet Trump, Shine Bomb in Washington at the FIFA event on Friday. And just as Mark Carney replied to that reporter a couple of weeks ago when he was asked, when was the last time you phoned Donald Trump? When was the last time you texted Donald Trump? And he said, well, who cares? I've been busy. We're working on things. We're working on trade deals. Remember his reply? Well, Scheinbaum, this reply is just beautiful. Her comment on what's going to happen if you should meet Trump in Washington at the FIFA event. She replied, Scheinbaum said Wednesday that it's not yet decided if she'll have a private meeting with Trump while in Washington for the FIFA event. If it were to happen, it would be a very brief meeting, she said. What a smackdown. If I choose to have an encounter with Donald Trump, it will be brief. World leaders are starting to behave like this. They're starting to just realize that there's no point engaging this buffoon. Our government tried to engage the buffoon for months and months and months, trying to work on a deal, trying to come up with maybe just a one sector deal or a small portion of a deal. And what was rumored to be close was Canada would revive that pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline, to please Trump. And in return, he might lower some tariffs on steel and aluminum. And we were close in negotiating that. But then that all fell apart when Doug Ford aired that ad in the United States, which, they used that as the excuse. Well, that's pissed us off. All negotiation and all dealings are done. I personally believe that things will get worse in the trade file between Canada and the United States. They will get worse next year when Donald Trump just deletes CUSMA or just makes the assertion, legally or illegally, CUSMA's done, that deal is up for renegotiation, and I terminate it, and he'll just unilaterally come up with whatever spews out of his small little brain at the time. And it probably will involve more tariffs on more imports from Canada. I believe that, and I made a video about that yesterday. But the point of this video is, in the face of those headwinds and some bad news in some specific sectors in Canada that are being affected, and remember, the plan was always by our federal government. They've said all along that, remember when we introduced the retaliatory tariffs and we raised some funds doing that? The federal government's always said that those funds will be used to support companies and industries that are disproportionately affected by the tariffs and support the workers that are displaced in those industries and come up with policies to try and increase demand for the products of those industries domestically, by embarking on this nation building project policy and by trying to create new trade deals and new trade possibilities with other countries. That's happening, but that happens slowly. But you can see that we're making progress slowly on a macro scale in our economy. We're creating jobs. The inflation rate is low. The numbers, the overall macro numbers, are actually really, really good. But it's hard to say that that the numbers are good if you're one of the people that's affected and displaced. If you're a steel worker or a forestry worker that's been affected by the tariffs, there's a bit of two stories going on at the same time. And unfortunately, this is going to be the situation going forward. We have to do what's best for our economy overall, despite the headwind. There's going to be negative things that happen because of the trade friction with the United States. And we just have to barrel through it. We just have to keep moving forward. And it's unfortunate, but there's going to be some bad news. But overall, positive news, if you understand what I'm trying to say here. I'm not trying to diminish the suffering of some of our fellow Canadians that are being disproportionately hurt by Donald Trump's policies. But I'm saying that we're doing the right thing and going in the right direction. Because you can't just snap your fingers and fix our steel industry, or you can't just snap your fingers and fix our forestry industry and make them profitable and really prosperous when their number one export market has turned their back on them. It takes time. We have to diversify. The only solution is to support those industries in the meantime and give them time to diversify and build our domestic consumption as well. That's going to take time, and I know that in the news cycle, it's hard to explain that because the media covers a story and there's a 1 or 2 day cycle. And so in the news now is going to be things like this. From Conservative opposition leader Pierre Poilievre, he says to reporters, "It's time for the Prime Minister to keep his word, negotiate a win, and put Canada first for a change." Thanks for your input, Pierre. That's a really good point. It escaped me. I never really thought of that. That's a really profound plan. We should just negotiate a win for a change. Good plan. I never thought of that. What a child. This is a grown man. This is his suggestion. Thanks very much. But to close off this video, the point is, on a macro level, we're moving in the right direction. The data is good. The numbers are good, but we're facing headwinds. We have to pull together as Canadians and help those of us who are struggling. They deserve support from us, we consumers in Canada. And the only thing we can do as consumers, the governments can supply bailouts and give them training programs and give them employment insurance benefits. Our government can do that. But what we can do as Canadians is to increase demand for Canadian things by buying Canadian, by not buying US, by boycotting the US 100%. The auto industry is the prime example. Don't buy American cars. If you want to buy a car that's made in Canada. If we increase demand for cars that are made in Ontario, those companies that build cars in Ontario, those operations and those jobs will be secure. They'll need more aluminum and more steel to manufacture them here. That'll increase demand from products that we can provide in Canada. We have to become resilient ourselves, and as consumers, we have to help. Just like we helped our own tourism industry by boycotting the United States, and just like we helped our own wine and spirits industry by boycotting the United States, because every dollar that we don't spend there, that we spend here, helps our country. And it's the same for everything else, all other industries. We have to, consumers, step up and play our part. And each individually, it's a small part individually, but there's 40 million of us, and we can make a difference. So that's my message all the time at the end of the videos. If you want to help, just buy Canadian. It's as simple as that. It's not hard to do. There are alternatives. Some of them are a little bit more expensive, and some of them are not expensive. You just have to look around in the store and actually pick things up and look at the label. When you go into an auto dealer and you want to buy a car, ask them where the car's been manufactured. Just use your brain and make decisions that'll help your own country. It's fairly simple to me. So we just have to stay the course, remain positive, support each other, and know that we are on the right path. We're facing headwinds, but we're on the right path. In complete contrast to the United States, those headlines that I read you, I don't know what path they're on. They're on the path going backwards. I guess that's their idea. They want to make themselves great again. So they're in reverse, moving towards the past. In all their decisions, not just economic decisions. From another country looking in to the United States, I just shake my head and go, what's wrong with those people? How are they supporting this? Are they educated? Where do they get their information? They have serious problems down there, and we need to look after our own business. Unfortunately, our business is being affected by some of their policies, but we are on the right path. Thanks for watching my video, everyone. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. If you want to support my work on a monthly basis, consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button below. Share the video so that we can increase our audience. Stay happy, stay safe, keep snapping these amazing pictures here. They're very beautiful. I'll leave the link for the I Choose Canada group as well in the video description. I'll catch you all on the next one.